Hally, last week we started with the stinger.
Sorry, I was waiting for an intro, then surprised me.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, you jumped.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm ready now. Start again if you like.
Hally, last week we started with a stinger, and Dos went off script straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Called us something. He called us Muscle Cat Media Productions, which is not the name of the company. We're Muscle Cat Media.
Oh, do you want me to do it this week?
Well, then you also had a crack, and then you were slammed for your lack of emotion.
I'm not.
But I want you to have another go.
But I'm not
No, I
prepared.
didn't. I said this podcast is brought to you by Muscle Cat Media.
No, but you said by Muscle Cat Media Productions.
Okay, what do I need
Well,
to
it
say?
sounded better.
The inflection was good,
Oh, no.
but the script was bad. Did the pen not
Okay,
work?
so that didn't work. So this podcast is brought to you by...
No, just say, this is a Muscle Cat Media production.
Okay. This... I can't
not
do
that
it.
easy,
I
is
can't
it?
put it on. This is a Muscle Cat Media production.
Damn right it is. Let's go.
I can't do it. Don't ever make me do it again. Need to practice. I'm going to practice on the way home now.
Can you hear that the music's playing?
Yeah. Can they hear me still from music?
Yes.
Yeah. It's good. Whole experience. Unique.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Outback Quarterback Podcast for another week. Curtis DeBoyo, QB3, here with you. QB2, Chris Hall, and QB1, Matthew Doss Maidment. Hawley, it's been a big day at Muscle Cat Studios. Big day of forced labour.
Not really. It's been a pretty average, normal day, Dos.
Normal day for you,
Dos. Curtis is doing a little renovation outside, obviously,
Yeah.
pergola and deck, and the timber's been delivered for the pergola, so I came...
I know, the timber was dropped right by the entrance to Muscle Cat Studios.
We predicted it.
We said, I bet you Dos will complain about not getting into the garage properly.
Well, I had to step on it to get in,
That's
so yeah.
fine. We have to pay. We need to give it another coat. But I got
Jeez,
here...
he was frosty when he came
It
in,
was
wasn't
frosty. Must have been the timber.
he? I've had a hard day. He had to step over a couple of planks of wood.
I had to set the boys up this morning and then make my way down to the studio. I got here at about 9 o'clock and we finished painting at, 3 o'clock?
Yeah, 3.
Had a little break. The breaks, Curt's breaks, he started to have more breaks as the day went on. Had to randomly go to the toilet all of a sudden.
So 20-minute
Mate,
toilet
that,
break.
that was not a toilet break. That was an attack, an unprovoked attack from my lower intestine. That's what that
His
was.
lunch break was extended.
I went and got you.
Jeez.
I bought you lunch. I went out and bought you lunch.
We
mate.
don't have to talk about that, Curt. This is my side of the story.
Okay.
Spent a few times inside. It was inside for a little longer than he needed to
Kept
be.
chatting up a girl that was in my house.
I'm
Yeah.
just calculating.
Yeah.
Hold on. So we're up to about 80 minutes of breaks.
Yeah, let's
Keep
not
going.
forget. I also paid Chris Hall for today. So
And if we
let's
had
factor that in.
actually, you do have security cameras. Can you get like noise and stuff on your cameras?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because you'll hear a lot of huffing and puffing if you
There
want to
was
go
a
back.
lot.
You're like, picking up timbers. He struggled mightily.
Hey man, my other job's hard on my lower back. All right, so I'm in all sorts. No, it's
you
good though.
you did well.
Thank you.
You did. Apart from all of that, you were handy.
Thank you. Well, I was better at doing this than I was at painting walls internally. Right. This was a lot of bending because it was planks of wood.
This was hard. Yeah, it was bending over. And like I said, guys that screw off decks a lot or do this kind of stuff, you end up, if you do go to footy training, you often have a little hammy problem.
So watch out tomorrow.
Be careful, Curt, tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Hawley. Appreciate that. Dos, how are you?
Stretch tonight, Curt.
I will. Yes. You might have to pass on that routine that you do every night. Your
Ah,
stretching
yeah,
routine.
pliability. The ROM wads. They're good.
How is the hamstring?
Hamstrings are good. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, recovered from the attack?
Yes, the wasp bite. Yeah, I recovered quite
Would you
quickly.
call it a bite
actually.
or an attack?
No, it was both.
Oh, you acted like...
Assault.
He acted like
I was
it an
dive
attack.
bombed by the European wasp.
Dive
Back
bombed.
of the
You saw it
hammy.
just-
It was. Hurt too.
How many do you think were there? Was it just the one?
No, there's about 5 or 6.
How many got?
Five wasps.
Yeah.
Or
In the little nest
wasp
area.
was... Oh, no, how many stings?
Oh, well, I think just one.
Oh, just one. How old are you? 35.
Yeah.
You did this last week.
Fully grown male against some wasp. Right. That could be a
well,
podcast title.
That's a good YouTube idea. Yeah.
Yeah, you stung by one or two. Did you see his eye blew up last year, Kurtz, when he got
That's
stung by
true.
the bee?
That's a good point.
This is
Curt,
deja vu. We literally talked about this last week.
I did not have nowhere near that.
We didn't
reaction.
mention that you're a little bit weak though. I thought more of Dos. I thought he was a little bit tougher.
Oh, okay. Cool. Wait, who are you insulting then? Him or me?
You.
Yeah, a bit of both.
Okay. All right. Dos.
Yes.
I just mentioned YouTube. We're almost at 300 subscribers, which is quite a
Great.
little milestone for us. We've had a nice little period of growth in the last week or so.
Yeah.
Lots of DMs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a few may have blocked you by now, Dos, from the constant badgering to follow and like and subscribe. But Some have followed, which is great. So if you haven't followed us and you're listening now, we are on YouTube and we are working on our YouTube production, particularly for next season. But we've got full episodes up there now, and this episode will be on there as well. So follow Outback QB on podcast on YouTube. But if they want to support the show on Spotify, Apple, how do they do that, Dos? What do they need to do?
Yeah, so on our page on Spotify, when you hit the podcast, hit the little follow button, and then you can turn on the little bell that gives you the notifications when the episodes goes off. But yeah, and then Apple, you can hit the follow button as well. But yeah, Spotify's the subscribe button.
Okay.
Different on
Look for
on YouTube.
Subscribe, follow, plus sign, whatever you need to sign up. And it is for life. It's a lifelong commitment. Yeah. I mean, we've disabled the unsubscribe button. So you're essentially signing up to the cult of Muscle Cat, but we will look after you, okay?
And Insta, Dos, how far away are we from the gritty?
Look, we're under 50 now. I'm
the topless gritty?
I'll have to start having some rehearsals.
And will that topless gritty be on our Instagram or RedTube?
If Dos signs the waiver, it will be. On what? On what? What was the last part of that question?
Will it be on Instagram or RedTube? Because he's topless, naked, you know. It's a porn
okay. It'll be on Instagram.
Cut it out. All right.
It'll be on Instagram.
Cut it out, Chris.
All right.
So I feel so free without my computer today. This is brilliant.
Yeah,
I might do this more often.
You are working off of 2 scrap sheets of paper. Some written notes today.
Yeah, that'll do. It's more than what I usually have.
And I came in, and the one piece of technology you did have was your phone, and it was so overheated that you had to put it in in the swivel of the air conditioner and rest it there so it would cool down.
Yeah, I did. Not going to deny it. I got here early this morning, and I was rushed, and I forgot my laptop. So obviously, all the prep I've been doing over the last 4 or 5 days, Dos.
Especially draft.
Running
back draft, that's right up your alley.
Well, I could have done QBs. There's like 2 to talk about, 3 to talk about. Running backs is like 15.
Oh, that's a good segue into what we're talking about tonight. We are talking about who we think or who we like as a positional group in the draft. We're going worst to first. Which teams do we think have the best chance to pull off a Washington and go worst to first in their division? We've got Dos's trivia, we've got Joke of the Week, and we've got headlines. Dos, one more thing before we get...
I don't know.
Well, it was on the run sheet.
Well, yeah, but I can't. I don't have my computer now, so I have to do it all properly.
And your phone's about to explode.
Can't use my phone. Give me the question, I'll give you the answer.
I'll give you the one that I got sent off my phone. You can read that out.
You have to write on a piece of paper and send it by pigeon.
Oh, no, I've got the joke.
Okay.
I'm talking about Dos's trivia.
Oh, yeah. You know, I have an idea for another camera to introduce into our streams
on
for
our
YouTube.
Screen.
Just on your keyboard and your screen. It's Chris's cheating cam. And I'm also going to put a GoPro on the drink bottle, Curt, just in case people get bored, they can watch other stuff during the show.
You can watch my notes on Microsoft Word. That's right. You only need like 13 seconds.
Dos, we've got the giveaway for the cards that were given to us by Sports Card World. Now, we haven't quite had time to prepare the full list of entrants because we had a lot, and as we said, I was working hard today, so I didn't quite get to it. We're going to try and do that at the end of the show. If we don't get a chance, we'll announce it on Instagram that we haven't got.
You're very well dressed for someone that was meant to be painting and lugging timber around.
Ah, well, why is that, Chris?
Birthday dinner tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your birthday's not for another couple more days, though. 28th?
Well, it's on Friday, but I'm away for work on that particular night, Dos,
yeah.
So, yes, my lovely wife and I
My wedding anniversary tomorrow, too. 8 years.
Well, congratulations.
Remember that 8 years ago, fellas? That was a fun day.
I do remember it.
Yeah, we were. For those who don't know, I mean, we've been mates for a long time. We were all in the wedding party.
You were?
Oh, yeah, we were too.
Hawley was good up in the penthouse with champagne flowing.
Oh, yeah.
Bottles.
That was good fun,
actually. It was.
Yeah,
that was just between just pre-reception.
Yeah,
good times.
Good. Beautiful. Great day. Well, congratulations, Dos. But yes, that's why I'm dressed up. Let's get into it. All right. Headlines. Not as busy this week, Dos. Just calm down a little bit.
Hold on.
What? Well, you know when you leave.
Hold on.
And to Greg.
Greg Warner.
To Greg Warner, I apologise in advance for disparaging the great one. Jameis Winston leads the headlines this week. A 2-year deal to the New York Giants. Now, the question, boys, that I've been scratching my head over is, what's the Giants' strategy? Is he the starter? Is he a 1-year stopgap? Are they drafting a QB still? What happens now?
Well, how does the contract read, Dos? Because I'm sure you've got it in front of you. You're going to explain it. Is it a 1 year and then you can just bail on him?
It's a 2-year, but you can certainly get out of it after 1 year without very little impact to your salary.
So maybe they're going to draft a quarterback. They don't want to throw him into the deep end. We'll let Winston take over the deep end. and then slowly introduce them. And then year 2, it's probably more the new quarterback's team than Jamie's.
Yeah, the Giants will be resigned to the fact that Cam Ward will go pick 1 to Tennessee, and there's a lot of noise of Shedeur Sanders now at pick 2 to Cleveland. That's sort of gained a bit of traction over the last week or so.
Such a Cleveland pick.
But even if they decide to pass and go Abdul Carter, which I think they should, the Browns, even if the Giants take Sanders, I still don't mind this move of having Jameis Winston there. Just good locker room vibe, culture, plenty of
at least
airball,
one reason to watch the Giants.
Plenty of yards to Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
And like you said, if Sanders does go 2, and I don't think they're not going to reach on a quarterback after that.
Well, I think then they'll look in maybe the 2nd or 3rd round.
Trade back or look at a 2nd or 3rd rounder. But there are some good quarterbacks. Arch Manning is touted as being an absolute star recruit, and I think he's next year's draft. So there are
We've
guys.
got Carson Beck and
There are guys like next year's quarterback draft at the moment they're touting it as a very, very strong quarterback draft. So that could be something. Even though they have a top 5 pick, it might not be enough to actually grab a quarterback this year.
Yeah, I don't think signing Winston changes their draft strategy at all, Curt.
Okay.
I think, but he's the complete opposite of what we saw with Daniel Jones, who tries to protect the ball. Winston will just sling it.
Yeah.
Like
He neglects the ball.
Yeah, I'd rather watch Jameis Winston as over Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock.
Indeed. There's some interest at the Giants, even just for entertainment value. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers has visited the Steelers. Now, there's not much that's come out of the meeting. It's all very hush-hush. Doss, is he going there? Do we want to see that? Is that cool? Is it not?
I don't know where Aaron Rodgers is going.
I don't know where the Steelers are going.
But who? Like, so you've got Russell and Aaron. They both want to be starters next year. Where are there enough teams left that need quarterbacks? Because Ward and
was the Giants who we just spoke about, or Pittsburgh.
So Tennessee will take a quarterback.
Yep.
Cleveland, you're thinking of probably taking a quarterback. So then you've got Giants and Pittsburgh, and Giants have a quarterback now. So are both these guys?
The options are running out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of them's out of a job, but I feel like Russell's too young to be out of a job now.
So is this delay on the Rodgers thing? Is it him trying to be mysterious and keep people guessing, or is there just a serious lack of interest? Is that what this all boils down to?
I think it's a bit of both. I think Aaron Rodgers has said he was happy to wait until the draft, which is another basically month away. I don't know.
Is he in his head where he
even
thinks...
we're bored of talking about this.
Yeah.
Well,
but does he just think that he is Aaron Rodgers and so high and mighty that he'll just pick a team and go there and he'll be their starter because he's Aaron Rodgers?
I guess.
Is he going to get a wake up call and he's all of a sudden he doesn't have a team, doesn't have a contract, and he sits there and thinks, oh bugger, I'm retiring.
Steelers fans are pretty mixed on it. Looking through our DMs, some say, yeah, we'd happily take Rodgers for a year or 2. Others are like, no, we don't want Aaron Rodgers there. So I think Aaron Rodgers would play better than Russell Wilson next year on pure quarterback play in Pittsburgh.
Makes him slightly better.
I think Aaron Rodgers is a better fit than
I think he's still a
Russell
starter. It's just a weird situation. All right, well, we'll see what happens with that one.
Let's not talk about him next week.
Okay.
Good idea.
Unless he signs somewhere, then you can talk
Even
about
if he does, stuff him.
Unless he's...
He doesn't get what he wants, so we won't talk about it.
That's right.
This is all he
He'll
wants.
really feel the effects of us not talking about it. And finally, just a little tidbit of news. Brandon Cooks, the wide receiver, goes back to where it all began, New Orleans. He signed there. He was a first-round pick in 2014, boys. He's been around for a long time now, Brandon Cooks. He's had a tumultuous sort of up and down last few years, going here, there, and everywhere, but he is back at the Saints. All right, just while I remember, next week is our owners meeting, the first Outback QB owners meeting. So wear your best business attire, boys. We'll put out the agenda for idea submissions, any other business from listeners during the week, to start thinking about what you want to raise with us, whether it's abusive, constructive, or somewhere in between.
Are we wearing what we'd wear if we were an owner?
Yeah.
Or what you want us to wear? Cool.
Yeah, it's up to you, mate.
Cool.
You go for it. All right, that's the headlines. Okay, we wanted to talk about worst to first. I believe this was your idea, Doss. Another good Matt Maidman idea.
Well, I may have seen it somewhere else, but I don't know if it's exactly my idea.
Nothing's
but
original in this world anymore,
Yeah.
Dos. You can just
I thought
repackage it the best way you know how.
I think it's the first time we may have spoken about it on the pod.
I think it's the first time we've done it. Yes, that's right. So who do you want to choose? You chose first. You realised the pool was thin and you put your nomination out straight away with probably the only really viable team, to be honest, which is...
Well, I didn't want to take Hawley's Patriots.
That's right. Oh, I should say this is based on the Commanders from last year, right? They went from...
Yes.
Well, they didn't win
Do you want to
division,
mention the teams, though? Maybe, Curt, have you got the standings in
Well,
front of
isn't
you?
there
yes,
one
I've got
every
them.
year that does it? Is that the stat over the last decade?
Really?
I think so. I thought we spoke about this at
Maybe.
the start of the year.
We
There's
do a
one
lot
that
of talking
makes-
about football. I forget a lot of stuff.
There was a period of time where one that finished last in the division made the playoffs.
Right.
Okay.
Similar.
Which
enough.
happened last year.
Yeah, that
The
happened
Commanders.
last year.
So Commanders didn't win the division, did they?
No, they did not.
There we go. All right. So San Francisco, New England, they are two candidates. The Raiders, I mean, they were 6 wins behind the third place Denver, so that's not a great candidate. Cleveland 3-14, they were bottom. Tennessee 3-14, they were bottom. The New York Giants 3-14. The Saints 5-12. The Bears 5-12. They're the 8 teams that finished bottom of their division. So you've gone for
Well, I've gone for the 49ers
Oh, that's surprising.
on the back of their 6-11 season.
Yep.
But it would
6-11. Gee, they struggled last year.
they were 5-5 at one point.
I forgot how bad that finished.
Yeah. So, and then they lost to Green Bay. That was when Brandon Allen, he played that game. Purdy
That's
didn't
right.
play. And then they went to Buffalo in the snow. Purdy did play that game and looked horrible. But it was just a year from hell. And it started really from the Super Bowl loss. Dre Greenlaw doing his Achilles in the Super Bowl on the sideline. Then Christian McCaffrey, the injury in preseason, just never got going. The Ricky Pearsall getting shot in the chest before the season starts.
Does not help.
Crazy. And then you had the holdouts with Brandon Ayuk, which seemed to drag on, or did drag on for 3 or 4 months in the offseason. Trent Williams holdout. And then the season starts and Brandon Ayuk does his ACL and MCL in week 7. Hufanga only played 7 games. They had multiple late game collapses as well, if you might remember. The Rams in week 3, the Cardinals in week 5, and the Seahawks in week 11, all against their divisional rivals. I mentioned that they were 5-5 when Purdy got injured. And yeah, I just look at last year couldn't have gone any worse for the 49ers. And they were still at one point 5-5 and then finishing up 6-11. And then I look at the remainder of the NFC West. And I know they've had a lot of players leave, but a lot of players that have left outside of probably Shavarius Ward, I think you can probably find replacements for, or they didn't have an impact last season, whether it be through injury or performance. So you got the Rams, who are the favourite for the division.
Yep.
But to be fair, I think they're a Matt Stafford injury away from basically being right in the middle of the NFC West here, right?
Yep.
And I'm not writing Sean McVay off at all, but if it's Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett playing a significant portion of next season, I'm just not sure. Outside of the Rams, who we know play well in the playoffs, and they came good towards the back end of last season, for most of the last season, we weren't really talking about the Rams being a huge threat come playoff time, right? And for the division, the Cardinals, I don't trust at all because I just haven't seen it under Kyler Murray, under Jonathan Gavin. We just haven't seen the consistency of play. I don't think there's enough talent on the roster either, to be fair, for the Cardinals. I think they're probably still a year or 2 away, although I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. is primed for a big season. And the Seahawks, we spoke about a couple of weeks ago with the Sam Darnold signing, how he played very nicely in Minnesota, but that was with Kevin O'Connell scheming the offense. It was with a pretty good offensive line. Not awesome, but it was good. But he had skill position players all over the place, which he doesn't have that same talent in Seattle, and he doesn't have the O-line to back it up as well, and he just doesn't have the play calling either, which is why I think the 49ers could rebound and turn that 6-11 season into a 10-win season. I think that may be enough to get it done because they still have Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Kyle Shanahan as coach, Brandon Ayuk when he comes back, and Christian McCaffrey as their wild card. Hopefully, fit, and Trent Williams on the offensive line.
You make strong points. I take your case for them, and it does make some sense. And it's always hard to make these cases because, after all, we're talking about teams that came last in their division. But I do have to counter it, Dos, with something you mentioned, and that's the players who left. Because we've been talking over the last couple of weeks about there are a lot of names and some really significant names, and not all superstars, but guys that have had a pretty big contribution to this team. Traded away Deebo Samuel to the Commanders, running back Jordan Mason to the Vikings, released Javon Hargrave, Malik Collins, both off the D-line, Leonard Floyd, the linebacker, players who signed elsewhere, Talanoa Hufanga, the linebacker, Dre Greenlaw's gone, Aaron Banks, paid too much, the Packers, but still okay as a player.
Will be prime for a great season.
Isaac Yiadom, Yiadom, I always forget how to pronounce that one. Josh Dobbs, he's gone. I mean, that's a game changer. Elijah Mitchell, backup running back. Not huge names, but still. Kyle Juszczyk, he did return.
He's back.
Sorry, he returned. He was thinking about going. But there's a lot that have left, and they haven't replaced it with much. So if you look on paper, you think this team's gotten worse.
They got a hit in the draft.
But certainly there is a chance.
Yeah.
Hawley,
Who
who did you take? And by the way, I looked over before, and all three of these cameras are on YouTube all at once, so we can see what we're doing at any given time when the other person's talking. And you're hunched over looking at your phone, just looking like you were texting, but I forgot you don't have your laptop, and it just looks terrible.
Sorry.
I can't hide behind his laptop when I'm talking.
Well, I mean, when you're typing on your laptop, it looks acceptable.
Oh, no,
it's like
I was
research.
actually... Yeah.
I believe
I was
you were
on my
researching.
phone. I was looking. I was like, what's that guy's name again? And making sure I had it right.
All right, who have you got? The Pats?
So I've got the Pats, yeah. I'll go with my boys. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that they can win the AFC East.
All right.
They have upgraded. They were last in the league for sacks last year, and they have tried to fill a couple. Well, they've tried to address that with Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, and Milton Williams. Now, Milton Williams it was an interesting contract. I know we've spoken about it plenty of times before. $27 million a year after starting for Philly 7 times last year. But the Patriots obviously see something, and they needed a guy. So
They just watched the Super Bowl.
yeah,
Clearly.
they watched the Super Bowl, and that's the guy they went after. But they needed to go after these guys in free agency. And like we said, they had over $100 million of space, so you might as well use it and see what happens. So they've done that. They've addressed or tried to address that sack problem. In terms of the offensive line, Morgan Moses on the O-line, that might be more of a locker room kind of guy, bit of help.
1 year veteran.
Yeah,
That'll be.
He'll sit in the locker room and mentor, I'd imagine, Doss.
Oh, he'll get some
He'll
starting
play,
reps.
but yeah. And then Garrett Bradbury will probably be the starting center now. Unfortunately for Cole Strange, who I'm still big on. I'm still big on Cole Strange. I think he has a future in the league.
Does he?
Maybe as a second or third stringer for Cleveland. The other one is Carlton Davis. He'll sit opposite Christian Gonzalez, and they will hopefully form a pretty nice 1-2 duo, which will hopefully be one of the better ones in the league. So they have addressed a lot on the defense, and it kind of leads me to think, come draft time with pick 4, they haven't had a big look at the O-line. So
left tackle.
So does that mean they're looking at a Will Campbell, or is it Aman Membu?
There you go. That's the pick.
So he's the guy now that seems to be the first O-line player or offensive tackle off of the board.
Why are you so excited, Doss?
Because I think...
Have you done a deep dive?
Yeah, Hawley's on it. Left tackle.
Well,
protect Drake May on the blind side.
I think we were waiting to see. I was especially waiting to see what would happen in free agency. If they went after some offensive tackles and loaded up, then that would push us towards more like a Travis Hunter or McMillan, or even, Tyler Warren might be a reach at 4, but we saw what Brock Bowers did last year. If Tyler Warren can do that for Drake May, that'd be huge. So I think now they'll probably pass up on a playmaker and go after some real offensive line help for Drake May. Now, all of this is going to help, but you still have to beat the Bills. And I think the Bills are miles ahead of anyone else. Miami on their day are a very good team. Tua can get them rolling, but Tua has to stay healthy. The Jets, I don't know what's going on there with Justin Fields. They might win 7 or 8 games, honestly.
I think they'll win 4 to 5 games.
I don't think they're a threat to the AFC East, but the Bills are the ones that, for the Pats to win the AFC East, they're going to have to either win 10 games or win 6 games and hope the Jets completely fail. Tua gets injured, misses the whole year, and Josh Allen does an ACL. That's the only way.
So they win the division.
Yeah, that's the only way they could win it, because I don't think they're having more than 6 or 7 wins.
Well, I mean, this is the exercise. We had to pick one.
How they're going to do it, and they're going to do it because everybody else fails. Stephen,
I love that it's a complete doomsday scenario.
It's Stephen Bradbury. He just rolls in from a coming 20th, and he rolls in. And gets
it would be
medal.
Josh Allen getting injured for the Bills. I think is the.
That's what he just said.
As your pathway. Yeah, but I think it's
And
more
then
than
Tua-
Fingers crossed, Chris.
Pat to win more than
I
6
hope
games.
Tua gets injured again. No, I don't hope that any of these players get injured, but that's probably the way the Pats win. Because I don't see how they're going to score 4 touchdowns a game with what they have offensively at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Fair. Yeah.
I mean, they've got pick 38, 69, 77. 38 will hopefully be a receiver. 69, 77. I mean, we'll talk about running backs. That's pretty deep class. They might grab someone there to help out Ramondre.
You do know you could have picked another team if you believed anybody else could go worst to first.
Well, Dost on the
he
WhatsApp group
signed
said,
the
I'll
Pats
leave
to
the
you,
Pats for Hawley. So I was like, well, I have to take the Pats.
Well, I didn't have to.
Do you believe any of the other? I mean, I'm going to do the Bears in a second,
Hmm.
but do you believe the Raiders, the Browns, the Titans, the Giants, or the Saints can do it? I think probably the Saints are the other most.
Raiders, Giants, Saints.
Raiders, Browns, Titans, Giants.
I
Saints.
think that Cleveland could be the one that could do it.
Really?
Oh,
Because what if
in
wait
the
and
AFC
see,
North.
we'll wait and see what happens. But what if Deshaun just comes good?
Oh, he's not. But he's
it's
done
not
his
happening.
Achilles. He's not playing.
It's
Yeah,
not
but
happening.
he could come back. Yeah, okay, good point.
And even if he does come back, he's still no good. He's
That's
finished.
why I said, what if he comes good?
Yes,
If he comes good, then he's.
If the Browns
If.
win 17 games, I think they might do it.
I think you're right.
Yep. All right, let's.
Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett have 40 sacks between them.
That was good. Look, if not an exercise in realistic worst to first, it was a good deep dive into the Pats. So,
Yeah, that's good.
well done, Hawley. You should prepare on paper every week because that was good.
I love the left tackle pick.
Well,
though.
I think
At
I've
pick
realized
4.
on paper, like on my computer, I don't mind because I can just quickly type in and be like, yeah, here we go. But now I can't do that on my phone.
That's right. So
Everything
you have
has to be
write
ready.
it down. Yeah. And your mind sort of, once you start writing things on a blank piece of paper, that's how we used to prepare for exams. Write down what you know and see how much, and then you can find your gaps. And it does log in your memory better, doesn't it?
That's a good point. The only flaw with the paper is I've only prepared one joke.
That's all right. But I believe in you today. You are on.
Thanks, Curtis.
You are on.
Cheers.
And we'll talk about that discount on the paint later.
Mr. 53% believes in you, Hawley. So.
52%. You guys are 24 each. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you're going to have a go, get it right, Dawson.
Well, people have sent me DMs saying that we're going to refer to Curt as Mr. 53% now.
Mr. 52.
Well, you could, as long as it's above 52, you can say
Just
it,
want
it's
6.9%.
fine. All right, I'm going to do
After last
Chicago.
week.
All right,
Now,
Bears.
Last
the
week's
other
episode.
teams, Raiders, I didn't believe in. They were 6 wins behind the Broncos. I just don't see that there's much upside there. Yes, they got a better quarterback now. So definitely some upside, but I still don't believe in them as an association, as a franchise. I mean, Browns no, Titans no, Giants no. The Saints, only because of their division, I thought about choosing them. It's possible that you can close the gap in the NFC South, but
if they're healthy, if
they're healthy.
Carr's healthy
Yeah.
and Olave's healthy, then
it's
yeah.
at least realistic, plausible.
Yeah.
Probably plausible if we were on the Mythbusters route.
But you just don't want to talk about the Saints.
No, because I find the Bears more exciting. 5-12, they're both 5-12, 6 wins behind Green Bay, 10 wins behind first in the division. So there's a lot of ground to make up on Detroit and the Minnesota Vikings and the Packers. But I do think there's something there. I know there were a lot of detractors on Caleb, but there was at least something shown. I think he showed enough to make you believe he could be very good. Right, so year 2, I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb takes a massive leap at quarterback.
He was very good to end the season last year.
He was.
In terms of turnovers, they were minimal for about 10 games, I think.
Yeah, that's right. It's the
He just
second
took
half
sacks,
of the year.
though, to avoid the interception.
I think that's
Got excited.
injury-wise, it's not, but I think that's better than throwing picks and because it goes. Sacks are blamed on your O-line, right? Picks are blamed on the quarterback.
That's true. Well, most of the time.
Pretty much how it works.
But they need.
Not all the. Well, I mean, you
Well, a lot
can
of it
take
is, though.
bad sacks as a quarterback.
I like how you looked me in the eye and just told me that is how it works.
Well, if you've got a quarterback that
No, I
throws
know the theory.
18 picks, you're like, we need a better quarterback. If you've got a quarterback that takes 60 sacks, we
Yeah,
need to
sure.
upgrade our offensive line.
Other than Shedeur Sanders. That's it. That's all his fault. That's all on him.
Exactly.
But you segue perfectly into my point. It is about the O-line, and that's what they needed to address in free agency, and they did it because we know the amount of sacks that Caleb took last year. Drew Dalman from Atlanta, very accomplished center. They got him in free agency. They got one of the best guards in the league from the Kansas City Chiefs, Joe Tooney, who had a bad Super Bowl but was playing out of position. I don't think you can read too much into that performance. He is still a star in that position, so that's huge. They got Jonah Jackson from the Rams. That's serviceable, not a game changer, but he's going to be their starter.
As long as he's healthy and he plays at guard, he'll be good.
So if you add those 3 guys, and they have to click, it actually has to come together, not just on paper, but in reality, that does look like a much improved O-line. Really good experience, proven performance there. So tick.
Certainly on the
paper.
interior. Yeah.
Yep, on the interior, tick. You'll say that that's sorted. They brought in Odeyingbo, decent edge, as a partner for Montez Sweat. They brought in Grady Jarrett from Atlanta on the inside, who has been a decent enough performer, a solid contributor. So their trenches on both sides get at least a little bit stronger. And then let's not ignore they got Ben Johnson. And I really like the appointment of Ben Johnson. I like that he's an offensive weapon. He has been amazing at Detroit for the last few years. I like that the Bears went for a rival and they poached a rival coach. And that Detroit now hate the Bears for having their
they do.
Their former assistant coach. And they now hate Ben Johnson because they think that he phoned it in the playoffs because he was thinking about going to the Bears. But I think he's going to be a great addition. They got Dennis Allen as DC. We know he can be a good DC. Then they got the untried Declan Doyle as OC. So we'll see what happens. But finally, boys, the secret is that they signed my boy, Olamide Zacchaeus. Now, he's wide receiver 3.
He's the X factor.
Keenan Allen's gone. Don't worry about drafting one because you've got Zacchaeus. But seriously, I think there's something there. And I was excited about the Bears last year. It didn't eventuate. There were a lot of players that needed to step up that didn't quite get there. Coaching change, Eberflus, you can say it was on him.
No, it was on him.
Well, there you go. And I think there are enough green shoots here. They have to get their draft right. They have to be smart. They have to close down a lot. I mean, they really have to close down a lot of ground. We know that. But an optimist would say that the Lions, are they scarred? Did they run out of gas from the extreme offensive game plan they've had and all the emotional energy in that building over the last few years? The Packers are good but not great. Do they stay good, not great? The Vikings just got rid of their 14-3 starting quarterback and are backing in a second year coming off an ACL who's never thrown a ball in the NFL. So if you're really optimistic, there's a pathway there. Will it happen? Probably not, but maybe.
Yep.
Maybe.
I'm liking Chicago this year. I think with their offensive line
Did
upgrades,
I convince you?
Well, I've been thinking about it for since the free agency moves that they've made. I've liked them a little bit more than I did last year.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit bigger on Caleb. Maybe was a little bit harsh on Caleb last year, a little bit mean to him.
I think the truth was somewhere in the middle between what you and I were saying.
And how he finished the year with, like I said, he was taking sacks rather than just throwing picks. I respected that, and I think he'll be a better quarterback this year because he wasn't. I mean, he did scramble around a bit, but he wasn't afraid to get hit.
Yep.
If that makes sense. So, yeah, I think this year with a better offensive line, we should hopefully see a much better Caleb and a more comfortable Caleb in the pocket.
You know, the thing is, the Bears have been an all-talk franchise for many years now, and it has to end at some point.
40.
About 40 years. So, yeah, 86 is a long time ago.
40-year anniversary this year of the 85
it
Bears.
Is too.
We're still talking about the 85 Bears, though.
Wowzers. That's crazy. Yep, there you go. That's 40 years of talk. It's time to end it.
But Shane Waldron as offensive coordinator last year and quite rightly deserved to be removed of his duties during the season. But it was awful. No, it was terrible. Didn't change a thing for Caleb Williams. His play calling was terrible.
Just going to cross off Shane Waldron off the list of prospective guests in the future.
Having Ben Johnson come in as your not only your head coach, but running your offense is a massive upgrade.
Oh, yes.
So
I love the appointment.
Exciting for Bears fans. The running game, DeAndre Swift heads that up. I think they will look for a running back in the draft, whether that is
good time to do it.
Whether that is Hampton at pick 10 or if it's a bit later on in the second round potentially. And they might go another edge or D-line for with their first pick. But it's exciting for Bears fans. I think there's a lot more optimism. They had the new quarterback, Caleb Williams, but there was still that Matt Eberflus legacy hovering around them last season as to whether they could significantly improve. But this year, I think they're in a better position personnel-wise than what they were this time 12 months ago.
Agreed,
Absolutely.
Doss. Agreed. Good summary. Now it's time for some Doss's trivia. Just before we get into the trivia, I know I said that tongue-in-cheek then about future guests, but, I mean, we are growing to a point where we're starting to potentially land some guests of note. And we've had, good reporters, Jordan Rodrigue. We've had Peter Bukowski. We've got a couple of others coming. John Chapman from San Francisco.
Yeah.
What's
49ers Rush.
49ers Rush, yes.
Podcast.
And he's big on YouTube. People of a high caliber are starting to join the show now. And trying to get some players at some point in the future. I'm sure that's on the cards. And I keep thinking about players that we've insulted or belittled.
We're
generally pretty positive on most players.
Doss, we need you to go back through the episodes and work out which players we can and can't have.
We
on the
can't
podcast.
get Terry. We can't have Terry McLaurin ever. Maybe just a DOS one-on-one.
We could do a
Can
DOS
you imagine
interview.
our grovelling during that interview? We've called him mid jokingly for 3 years.
Who's
and
we? We.
I was looking at
There is
Chris.
no
I
collect.
was looking at Chris.
Hawley's been bullish on Terry as well.
What are you
He
talking
supported
about?
me a bit more than you.
What are you talking?
Yeah,
Dossie,
you know what?
You know what?
I wouldn't mind. I think Terry is due for a big year. I'm pushing him more towards that top tier
You know what?
level of receiver.
Sometimes DOS, and I'm sure you'll agree with me here. Sometimes DOS just likes to push the vitriol my way and ignores all facts. I cannot believe that you just said that Chris Hall was more positive about Terry McLaurin than me. He has been the number one antagonist on that issue.
He has been, actually. Yeah,
There we go.
you have been- well, you
See?
changed your tune a little bit last year. But yes, you do
Maybe
like
I
to
did it
point
behind
out.
your back more.
You do like to point out when he has one bad game.
Yeah,
Well,
that's right.
because
ran that home.
it happens every fortnight.
Oh, it does.
See?
Go and have a look at the stat. I'm not
Alright.
getting into this.
I can't. I don't have a
discussion.
computer.
Let's go.
It's a good one. Oh, fellas, there were 5 players last season.
Terry McLaurin.
No. There were 5 players last season that had over 1,000 receiving yards and a drop rate of less than 2%. Who are those 5 players?
Drop rate of less than 2%.
Sure hands, Hawley.
Yep.
This is what you
The
like.
problem with this is that I have seen these kind of stats floating around, but I have no recollection of who they
Is
who the
one
players
Terry?
were.
No, Terry McLaurin is not.
Did he even have 1,000 yards?
Because he's always yes, he did, and he's always taken contested
Sure.
best contested catch in the NFL.
Tyreek Hill.
No.
Are we talking?
By the
some-
way, 2 players 0 in this.
Zero
Well,
drops.
2
Zero-
players 0, then one is 0.7, then 1.4%, 1.5%.
Are we
Wow.
talking big name players?
There's some yes,
So like a Jefferson Chase type.
not them, but yes.
Well, I mean,
Think
it's-
about-
it's somewhere in the middle, right? Because if you're targeted
How
that
many
much,
targets they're
surely
getting.
there's a drop in there. So there wouldn't be guys that have.
What does a drop classed as? Like you get your hands to it and then
Drop pass.
Jerry Jeudy.
No,
Okay. Nico Collins.
no. There's 4 there's 4 receivers and 1 tight end.
Okay.
Puka.
Brock Bowers.
No,
George Kittle.
no.
Oh my
Travis Kelce.
Oh
Trey
my
McBride.
gosh. Trey McBride
Yes!
is the tight
Hey,
end.
should have
All
been your first
Kurt.
guess.
Cut everything out until we got to Trey McBride.
Trey McBride.
1 from 1.
He never drops passes. 1.4%.
AJ Brown.
Yes, he's number 0.
Bang.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, who's good?
CD.
No.
Malik Neighbors.
No.
No, he had a few drops.
Yeah.
Oh, music.
Where's
sorry.
that? Where's our music?
There we go. All right. Let's slow this down.
So
Slow
what
it
about
down,
we talking
calm down.
Detroit had a lot of yards. Amon-Ra, St. Brown. Then.
Good one.
Okay, thank
Nice.
you.
0.7%.
Who else had a
Phil
lot of
Evans dropped a
yards?
few. Mike Evans dropped a few.
You got 1 in the AFC West and 1 in the NFC West.
One
Left.
in the AFC West. Oh, Lad McConkey.
No.
No. Okay. Ooh. Broncos.
Not the Broncos.
Chiefs.
Not the Chiefs.
The Raiders.
Yep.
We said Brock Bowers. Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers.
Really?
0.
Did he go over 1,000? And no drops?
No drops.
Jacoby, we have disrespected you.
I was about to
Get him
say-
on the show.
I was about to say Devontae Adams, but then obviously it wasn't going to be him. And then who else could it possibly have been?
Jacoby. Would you have come up with Jacoby?
I wouldn't have.
You just would have blanked?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I blank on...
I wouldn't have
pressure.
thought of him as a.
No, I would not have got
As a guy.
Jacoby Myers. I know he had a pretty handy year.
Oh, NFC West, Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Correct. Yes.
done.
1.5%.
There you
Beautiful.
go.
Okay, we recovered. That got
Yeah,
respectable.
if we start that at Trey McBride, we did really, really well.
You did. Yes.
It's because we got the 1,000 incorrect answers out the way early.
And then we just went reeled off any other average receivers.
You couldn't get it wrong
average
after
to good
that.
receivers.
All right, I like that, Dos. Look, this song's about to crescendo in about 3 seconds, so let's wait for that. All right, let's quickly go through our favorite draft class position group because we're, a month, or basically exactly a month and 1 day. It starts on Anzac Day, our time, right?
Does.
First round?
Yep.
Amazing.
Correct.
Fantastic
Beautiful.
timing. So we are going to pick a positional group that we like, that we're excited about, that we think is a good group. And it's a different draft. We've said that a few times. There's groups that are sometimes not strong that are really strong this time. And we don't know what's going to happen early or even in those bid rounds. So Hawley, why don't you hit us with the
sure.
position group you like?
I've gone with the running backs because my boy Ashton Genty, I'm obviously a Boys State fan, and he's basically one of these generational guys. He almost broke the record for most yards ever in a college football season for a running back. He was, if you watched his games, he just bounced off receivers. He outran receivers. He was stronger than receivers. Teams ended up absolutely stacking boxes for like 6-7 players just to try to stop him, and he's still running through these guys. So there was a bit of a knock on him that he played in the Mountain West, so he wasn't coming up against the best defensive players in the nation. But to argue that his offensive line was also from the Mountain West, so he wasn't being blocked by the best offensive players in the nation. And he did, I think Oregon were ranked 1 at the time, and he went well over 100 yards against them when they played against, or when Boise State played the Ducks. So he's a guy that he's a top 5 talent in the draft. It just depends where he falls in terms of who wants a running back. So honestly, I think he's I'd have him as almost the best player in the draft.
Wow.
But in terms of where he lands, it could be anywhere from 5 to 10, I think, depending on who wants a running back, essentially.
Bijan of a couple of years ago.
Yeah, pretty well. But I think he's probably touted a bit higher than anyone we've seen in the last maybe decade.
So that's one player. How does the rest of the class follow?
The rest of the class, there's a couple other guys that are, so Marion Hampton from North Carolina. He's the other guy that could go day one.
Yep.
He'll be first round.
He's a real violent runner. He's a really good blocker as well. He's not a real creative runner. He's just a guy that just runs through players. He just gets the ball and says, try to tackle me because you probably can't. He just bounces off guys and just keeps going. So he's that other guy that will be a 3-down back, day one starter for whoever drafts him. He'll probably fit like a Pittsburgh model, like a Najee, just ground and pound.
Mm-hmm.
That would kind of be where Hampton would fit. And then we've got a pair of Ohio State running backs as well. So Quinshawn Judkins. He's a bit of a beast mode, breaks, tackles, seeks the contest kind of guy. In his freshman year at Ohio State, he went for 1,567 yards, which led the SEC that year and was the second best ever freshman season in the SEC for a running back. So he paired up this year with Trevion Henderson from Ohio State. Obviously, now he's more of a smart runner. He's a patient guy that will find a gap and then go. The only downside to him is that he was the lead back, or more of the lead back in 22-23, and he was injured a lot. So he couldn't get through a full season.
Who was
that number one guy, Trevion Henderson. Trevion Henderson from Ohio State. So him pairing up with Quinshawn or last year really worked well for Ohio State. Like these, it's not often you see these like two players from the same team touted as such high draft picks as running, or from the same position. Obviously, running backs are sharing the load. So those guys are probably close to your starters from day one in the NFL. Then you've got another list of, the list is so long, and whatever you read a lot online, and these lists change every week, 2 weeks,
day,
every day.
What about Scatterbo?
So I'll get to Scatterbo. My next kind of tier of guys are like Caleb Johnson, who went at 6.4 yards a carry last year, led the Big Ten from Iowa. Devin Neal from Kansas. Trevor Etienne, Travis's brother, from Georgia. Dylan Sampson, Tennessee. We've got Jordan James from Oregon, Brashard Smith, LeQuint Allen. All these guys are
LeQuint.
Good name.
Allen.
LeQuint.
All these guys are really, really good running backs who will get drafted and can easily roll into an RB1 role at some stage in the season. I'm not sure if they're day one starters, depending on where they get drafted, but they can come in as like a 1B kind of player, and then all of a sudden 1A gets injured, and then they're the lead guy. They're having 20 carries per 20 carries a week, and they're going well over 100 yards a week every week. So these guys are all more than capable running backs. If your team drafts one of these guys, you're happy.
You're good.
I've got two guys that will be a little bit unknown. So Cam Scatterbo from Arizona State. So he wasn't highly recruited. He came out of Sacramento State. He transferred from Sacramento State to Arizona State. He was this guy that just works hard. He just gets the job done. His His speed's not there. Agility. He's not a guy that will light up your testing. But he exploded. He had he had almost 2,100 yards last year. He had 22 TDs. He has had 10 fumbles in the last 3 seasons, but he was a Heisman finalist. So this guy's come from an FSC school to Arizona State, and he's become a Heisman finalist. So it's probably one of the reasons I really, really like him. He's not fastest. He's not explosive. He just works so hard, and he just gets the job done. And I think if you're recruiting him, you can't look at the metrics of, all right, this is how tall he is, or this is how fast he is, or this is his cone drill. You just have to look at the way this guy plays and think he delivers.
He's a football player.
He's just a football player. He just gets the job done everywhere he goes. His production is absolutely elite. So what's to say he gets to an NFL system and for some reason it just stops? It hasn't yet.
There's 2 things I like about Scatterbo. The first is his name. I mean, it's fantastic to say Scatterbo. I want to say Scatterbo 10 times a week for the next 10 years. Secondly is he can receive the ball, right? He can catch the ball. He's been comped to Kyron Williams because of his involvement in the passing game. So he's not one-dimensional. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Well, he had 1,580 rush yards, a bit over 500 receiving yards. So which
is a great ratio. That 3-to-1 ratio is just it's a nice indicator coming out of college that this guy can be active in 2 ways.
Yep. He's one that another one that I think he could go early in drafts. He could go. Yeah, he could go round 2. He could go round 5. But wherever he goes,
PFF have him as their 3rd best running back.
But then you go to other lists and they're like 14, 15.
Yeah, I know.
He's all over the place.
But you know what? That indicates a strong class. If you've got guys that could be 3rd or 15th, that means there's a lot of talent wedged together.
A lot of the 15th is because he's not fast. He's not explosive. You look at all the tests and he's not in a high percentile. He's not the guy. Like, I'm sure if some of these guys that I've mentioned earlier tested, they've got good 40 times, they've got good cone times, all of this. So that's what lets him down. But as we said, he's just a good football player. He just gets the job done. The other guy that he could be a real dark horse, and especially if you're talking fantasy football, he'll go a little bit later, but Ollie Gordon II from Oklahoma State. So 2023, he had 1,732 rush yards, 6.1 yards per carry, 21 rush TDs. He had a 3-game stretch of 858 scrimmage yards that year.
A 3-game stretch.
So 3 games, he went almost 300 yards a game. No, that's not rush yards, that's scrimmage yards, but
doesn't matter.
That's absolute. That's an absolute. He
out-yarded whole franchise, whole colleges over a 3-week stretch.
He was Heisman talks at the start of the year.
Yeah.
And so what's hurt him, and that's the same thing that hurt Ashton Genty towards the end of the year, was that teams saw that. So they stacked their boxes. They would not let Oklahoma State run against them. And Oklahoma State's O-line just crumbled for whatever reason, injuries and things like that. Oklahoma State's offense this year was deplorable. So in turn, Ollie Gordon had 880 yards at 4.5 yards a carry.
Yeah.
So he's gone from 2023 season Heisman finalist, well, potentially a Heisman finalist, probably a very early round pick, to a guy that is now a little bit more on the outer, and he sits somewhere in that 10 to 20 range of running back being drafted. But if an NFL team can grab him, turn him back into that 2023 Ollie Gordon, then you might have found probably the steal of the draft in terms of running backs. The only other side is he has had a couple of off-field issues which NFL teams might not like, a bit of DUI kind of stuff. So, but yeah, if he can sort that out, NFL team can grab him and put him behind a good offensive line, then mate, the 2023 Ollie Gordon was probably the best, or close to the best running back in the league.
Awesome, Holly. I learned a lot.
Very good. Yeah, I know, and I didn't really want to do this because I know Curt will now use any information he can for our fantasy football draft. I wanted to keep Cam Scatterbo out of it and Ollie Gordon out of it because I know Curt will look at him like, oh, I don't mind this guy.
Noted. I'll just make sure I have one pick before you in the draft.
I might have to, I should have put some dark horse in that I really, really like that I don't actually like.
Couple of day 3.
Red herring.
Yeah. Couple of day 3 options. But all those guys that Holly just spoke about are all going to day 2. They're round 2, round 3. The running back is just going to boom. There'll be probably the 2 in the first round, Genty and Hampton. And then after that, it's going to be heavy second and third round. It's just exciting. And I think once the first one goes, it'll be like a sequence. It'll be a chain.
The NFL this year is going to be, and it seems like it's leading that way, it's going to be a lot more of a 1A, 1B running back room.
It's good timing for a strong class because running backs are cool again. In one season, Barkley changed.
And we haven't really, we're not seeing as many guys just straight out RB1s like Derrick Henry was, Saquon Barkley was. But even when we talk about like BJ and Robinson, he's good enough to be an RB1, but Tyler's there, so he's not an RB1. These guys aren't just...
Well, he's RB1, but with a significant share.
He's a 1A to a 1B. He's not... We're not seeing like...
Kyron Will. Josh Jacobs is clear.
He is, but that's where I think now we're going to see a lot of these guys will get drafted to those teams as a backup, and they'll realize, hey, we've got 2 really good runners now. Josh can have 15 carries instead of 23, and we'll give Trevor Etienne another 8 or 9 carries.
Don't mind it.
Want to see if Etienne's
do you go
Trevor
there? Do you go there again?
Yeah, after a few got burnt by Travis over the years.
All right, I'm going to do the D line. I've taken the whole D line because it's a conversation in tandem. Hey, man, you stole the 49ers. I thought I'd get in early with the D line.
24 to 32.
Well, look.
Settle in, guys, because it's Curt time. Mr. 53%.
Believe it or not, I actually won't take as long as Hawley. He really got into that. I'll try and keep this as quick as I can. 12 to 14 D linemen could go in the first round this year. And that is compared to only 6 last year, and it took until pick 14 to see even a defensive player taken last year. So it's very different.
My kind
the
of
emphasis
draft.
is different. Exactly.
Last year was.
Exactly. Notice he went for the running backs again. No defense.
All he can't wait for day one.
You know, you are so offensive minded that before when you were talking and you meant to say like cornerbacks, you said receivers.
Did I?
About 3 times. You said that Genty can bounce off receivers and get and run through them. I love it.
Oh, I just love the offense.
But look, there is a bunch of top defensive end talent in this draft. We know that. There's Abdul Carter. He's potentially number 1 wherever he goes. James Pierce. It depends on who you listen to from Tennessee. He's either sliding or he's rising. I don't know where to put him, but he's in the first round somewhere, I'm sure. Mike Green, Michael Williams, 3 of those guys, 3 of those 4 could probably go top 10. That's not out of the realms of possibility at all. But the real difference, I think, with the D-line is the defensive tackles, the interior guys this year, because last year there was only 1 taken in the first round. That was Byron Murphy to the Seahawks, DOS at pick 16.
Yep.
But this year, Mason Graham, he's a top 5 pick, more than likely. You've got as many as 4 others defensive tackles who can go in the first round. And we know from previous drafts that the D-line, whether it's edge or interior, it's a FOMO position. And a few positions are like that, where you see a run, teams get on a run with them, or the league gets on a run. But in previous drafts, we've seen it. Last year, in the second round, there was only 1 taken until pick 36. Then there were DTs taken at pick 35. Pick 35, pick 36, pick 38, pick 39. Once 1 goes, they think this is a scarce position. We don't want to miss out. So they fall like dominoes. But it's not that predictable. We know that. PFF has 11 D linemen going in round 1. Chad Reuter from NFL.com and his mock has half of that. CBS thinks guards are the worst class. Reuter has 2 going in the first round. So we don't know where it all sits. That's an O-line example, but there's a disparity in the trenches normally with draft analysis. And it could turn out that 3 or 4 guys go, and this is all a bit of a storm in a teacup. But I think it is a very strong class. I think once a run starts in the middle of the first round, we'll see a fair few guys drop.
I agree with you 100%, Curt. Like you go through Shamar Stewart on the edge that you didn't mention before. Mike Green is another one. Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State, defensive lineman. And then, Jalen Walker, another edge out of Georgia. And then you got the Kenneth Grant D-line too. So, yeah, it's a very strong defensive interior and D-line class, which, for us, excited. For Hawley, not so much up and about, but it's cool.
It's similar to what Hawley mentioned in that there's this group of guys that you just don't know where they fit amongst each other. There's not, there's a clear 1, but then there's not a clear 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From 2 to 12, the talent, you could throw a blanket over them. So that's indicative that we'll see a fair few go on day 1 and early on day 2. It's going to be a dominant running back and D-line day 2.
Do you think that we might see a few teams that have maybe a pick between like 6 and 12 that need a DT, maybe push back to like an 18 to 20 because they know that there's 8 or 9 guys that are all pretty similar and they're not too bothered who they get.
And Les Graham's still on the board and they'll go for him. Maybe Grant early as well.
And it's interesting because we always talk about teams trading back. You got to find someone that wants to trade up.
Correct.
Yep. So the issue is when you got, and Peter Bukowski mentioned it the other day when we had him, the players from 25 to about 60 in this draft, talent-wise, are all similar.
Yeah.
Like they're all good players just at varying positions. So then you got to look at, well, who wants to trade up? And when it's not a quarterback heavy draft at the top,
no real need to trade up.
Where's the desire to trade up from? But now you might get it from, say, late second round into early second round, into the first round, but or late in the first round, I should say, potentially. But outside of that, like, where's the desire for a team to trade up in this draft when you're going to get and we've seen
it goes both ways, doesn't it?
Yeah, the mocks have varied wildly, which tells you the unpredictability in this draft. Like, receivers, there's only probably 2 that might go in the first round. We haven't seen that since 2018, 2019. So it's so unpredictable.
What's your class?
I took the tight ends.
Ah, yes. Very good.
Because you got Tyler Warren, who could go anywhere from, I don't think the Jets will take him at pick 6, given the fact that they didn't take Brock Bowers last season. I think they'll end up going offensive lineman again. But
they not learn from their mistake from last season?
Well, I think it all depends on what Hawley mentioned before and what the Pats do a little bit if they go O-line there. But Tyler Warren, he just impacts both facets of the offense. He's a big physical dude, excellent yards after a catch. It's a big strength of his. He's a security blanket for any quarterback, anyone that's going to be under center. He's a handy run blocker, and his production for Penn State last season was excellent. Genuine blue chip talent, Tyler Warren. And I think, he will go in the top 10, but then there's also, depending on needs of other teams, he could fall as low to the Colts at pick 14, which I think is...
Well, Brock Bowers has probably helped him because we saw Brock Bowers is really highly recruited, talked about being one of these guys, these tight ends that you don't see very often, and he's lived up to the hype. He's breaking records, and he's playing for the Raiders.
With average quarterbacks.
With an average quarterback, exactly right. So if Brock Bowers came out last year, had an average year, then you kind of think, well, what's to say Tyler Warren will be any better? So now that Brock Bowers has played so well, teams might look at it and think, hey, I don't want to miss out on what the Raiders have. Let's go for Tyler Warren. Let's trade up. Let's grab Tyler Warren. If he can produce what Brock Bowers has, then that's invaluable to our franchise.
The only thing with Warren is he had one incredible year,
which was last season. Correct. Yes.
But before that, he wasn't on many radars. He didn't have particularly great production. He had 2022, he had 120 yards.
But Penn State weren't great either.
Sure.
It depends who. I'm not sure who Penn State had at tight end in those years either. Sure. It's the same as a quarterback. A lot of the time they might sit behind a starter. They get, like, Arch Manning will get 1 year as a starter next year, probably get drafted. And you can go back and say, well, he didn't produce before that, but because he wasn't the starter.
But to complete my point, Brock Bowers had 3 years of good production.
Consistent. Yes, he did.
He was so pro-ready because he'd been the guy for 3 years and had produced. So that's my only, I really like Warren. That's my only hesitation. One fantastic year.
The other tight end that's projected to go in the first round, well, I think he will go in the first round, is Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. And he's a pretty comparable player with the way he moves and the way in his pass catching ability to Brock Bowers. He's a big body that can line up anywhere in the formation. He only played 10 games last season. He had a shoulder injury. Some mock drafts have got him going in the late teens. I actually think the Broncos at 20 may have a look, although they did grab Evan Engram at the end of free agency. I don't know if that changes too much. I think if a genuine receiver is there for Denver, they'll probably go with a receiver, whether that's Golden or McMillan. But then you got the Chargers at pick 22, who desperately need someone like Colston Loveland, and I think they could be right into him at that position. So they're definitely the 2 tight ends that'll go in the first round. And then you've got 2 other very handy tight ends in Mason Taylor out of LSU and Elijah Arroyo out of Miami, who I think day 2, I think they'll be in the second round. And we've seen quite a few very, very nice tight ends drafted in the second round. And then there's a bit of a drop-off after that to Harold Fannin Jr., Terrence Ferguson, who had a very nice combine, by the way, and Gunnar Helm out of Texas.
Can we talk about Harold Fannin Jr., right, from Bowling Green? So take that as it may. But for the last 2 years on PFF, he has been the number 1 tight end in the country. 1 out of 479 in 2023 and first out of 438 last year, with an overall grade of 95.9. Now, for anybody who knows PFF, 1 game in the 90s is you've had a superstar performance. A season in the high 80s, you're the best in your position. Almost. if you hit 90, you're pretty much the best. 95.9 is absurd. And his production last year, 117 receptions, 1,555 yards and 10 TDs. And to top that off, he's comped to our favourite boy all of a sudden, Jonnu Smith. So this guy can do no wrong, boys. Harold Fannin Jr., you got to watch that.
Is he? Is it because
And he played Penn State.
It's Bowling Green.
Is it the Ashton Genty Boise State argument that he's?
Of course,
he's
that's
at
why I
Bowling
mentioned his
Green?
team. But
Yeah.
still, I mean, you can't sneeze at that. That's
No, it's production.
You can look at that the other way. Like you're playing against a quarterback who's Bowling Green's you're playing with a quarterback who is Bowling Green's quarterback, and that is not usually a highly recruited quarterback. So it all comes out in the wash. I think
it does. So anyway, I think just keep an eye on him. That's an interesting name.
Yeah.
Interesting name to watch. So do you think we'll get 2 in the first round, a few in the second?
I think you'll have 3 tight ends in the second round. I think you have Mason Taylor, Elijah Royal, and Harold Fannin Jr. And then I think Terrence Ferguson, who based on his combine out of Oregon, was very good. And Gunnar Helm out of Texas. I think they'll be round 3 selections.
2 QBs in the top 20 picks is what we're probably expecting, which is usually that's pretty strong.
2 quarterbacks.
Tight ends.
2 tight ends.
2 tight ends. Yes. Yes, 2 tight ends.
See, it's been a long day of hard work, hasn't it,
that
Chris?
sun really got me sneezing, Curt.
Okay, let's not explain that in joke.
Oh, did you have a allergy
No, I
reaction
just,
out
for
there?
some reason, every time I go into the sun, I sneeze. I don't have hay fever. When I see the sun, I sneeze.
Mate,
All right.
you're looking at me like that's how I look.
But it did happen, didn't it?
Allergy.
Yeah.
Allergic to the sun.
Doesn't sound great, does it? That's why I stay inside so much. Very good, Dos. All right, that's the tight end class. That's the D line. That's the running backs. We've got joke of the week just about to go. What we will do, if Dos, you've got 10 minutes after this, should we draw the prize tonight?
Oh, yeah, we could probably do it tonight.
All right, so we will do the joke of the week. We'll play the wrap-up song as though it's the end of the show, but hang around if you want to hear if you won the Sports Card World prize. We'll be... Oh, no, we won't be back in a second. We're going to do this right now. Let's go.
All right, Dos, pay attention, please.
Yeah.
Respect.
Come on, let's do it.
All right. If you have 12 oranges in one hand and 12 apples in the other hand, what do you have? Big ass hands.
You do.
It's pretty good.
Not bad. Hey?
That's not bad.
A very good skill to hold them all.
Thank you. Must have big hands.
Happy?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
It's fine, isn't it? It's fine.
Oh, well,
I wonder if he was going to say if you had 13 bricks and 13 bricks.
Oh, it doesn't matter what you've got. If
Yeah, it
you've got
doesn't
a lot
matter.
of something. It means you've got big hands.
You threw me with apples and oranges because I thought it was going to be a comparison
Yeah.
joke, and that was a red herring. Well done.
Thank you.
Nice job. Good setup.
Cheers,
All
mate.
right, that's the show. Stick around if you want to hear the prizes. Next week, we have got it's a first ever Outback QB owners meeting. I can't wait. I'm very excited. Look out on our Instagram, Outback QB Podcast, for your chance. Well, not chance. You can just do it. Submit agenda items, and if it's good enough, it'll make it on. We'll see you all next week.
Are we official owners? So we lie.
No.
Or are we lying to our listeners?
Well, I mean, it's very complex.
Mr.
I own the company.
53% over here. So.
Well, I mean, I own 100% of the company if we want to get technical.
Yeah. Okay. What's my 24%?
So really,
What is our 24%?
Look, it's a funny little light setup for an episode. All right, there's an owners meeting in the NFL. I thought it'd be funny to call it the owners meeting for us.
Do you think what we propose will get vetoed, or do you think we'll actually get something over across the line?
Well, we could go on strike. And what's 100% of nothing?
Well, it's only nothing because you still haven't submitted your invoice, mate. And I want to get that off the books before the end of the financial year. So if you could do that at some point, that'd be
All right,
great.
I'll get it through.
All right, see you next week.
See you, fellas.
Bye, guys.